Uduasha city, where the sun is a mirror and the moon a shadow. 800 years ago, the gates of death were broken by the Emperor Immortal. The 5 key bearers, however, had already unlocked them and walked right through. It is in Uduasha city they dwell. Now, the ghost field breathes next to our reality, lit by the eternal flame of the well of Udu. It is a second skin, a place where thought and will struggle against gravity and light. In other places, the dead congregate in the ghost field, but in Uduasha, the well city, the hell city, they fall straight into the flames. See its glittering districts: Kshitijpur, where the rich plot to buy the horizon; Bunda West, where the refugees of 2 different nations flock; and Pasarhantu, the vertical maze of market and murder. And here is Udepat, where the ceaseless temple resides. Its inhabitants, a family, a snake, and a god. The temple has stood since before the gods of this world were forgotten. Watch as it turns the wheels of revolution. Welcome to Desperate Attune, an actual play podcast about people who take risks so they can survive against the odds.
Hi everyone, it's Zoheb with the recap of the previous episode. The crew concluded the long-delayed committee meeting to determine the future of the temple. The Chakrabarti family went to great lengths to discredit the Begum Bushandara's sinister plans, revealing what she would do if she finally got her hands on the temple: demolish it and replace it with a large parking lot. The Begum, furious and humiliated, has sworn vengeance on the temple. It's war. The divine and occult consequences continue. Freya attracted the attention of a demon from the future, who is now in the present. And Joan, seeking an answer to the great hunger that gnaws at her stomach, journeys to one of the oldest temples in Uduasha, the House of the Hungry, to the soup kitchens and charities. But instead of finding solace under the guidance of an Iruvian sage, she finds herself under the tutelage of a brash young Akurasi named Madison Frake, who has strange appetites she wishes to share with Joan. Meanwhile, Augustus Khan begins to grow in romance and in legend. He is a poet now. And that's it. Recap's done. The episode begins. Alonzi!
Great. Freya, do you want to indulge your voice now?
Yes, it is time. It is time for me to indulge Vice. My Vice is in Ashcloister, where I will be hanging out with the socialite slash sorceress slash courtesan, this teamed lady in shades of rose and gold, who works at the mysteries. And I think because Prince wrote this district, this NPC, and this location, all of it, I would invite Prince to give us the rundown of Ashcloister and so on.
All right, so Ashcloister was a school and a monastery at one point in time. It was like the sort of place where people like Abbas were educated. That was a long time ago. It has largely fallen apart now. Yeah, it's in ruin. It was a long time ago. And today it is basically the red light district. It is a den of vice and sin. It is home to entertainers. And I think people of Uduasha have this opinion, like a lot of people have had historically, that, any form of entertainment is basically like dirty, right? It doesn't matter if you're a sex worker or a dancer or playing some sort of instrument. It's dishonorable work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the place that this is. It's where people go for entertainment. It's kind of run down and poor, but they have a lot of famous establishments that even the classy people go to a little bit in secret. And the Mysteries is an entertainment venue that's kind of an experience, part escape room, part opium den, and part brothel. You're dropped inside a smoke and drug-filled maze underneath Ashcloister and then encounter various pleasures. And people go to this as kind of like a mystic experience where it's a big thing that you never quite know what you're going to get. Yeah, it's like this very weird entertainment venue where the whole point is for you to be drawn into some sort of like mystery or trance-like state or whatnot. So like they definitely put trance powder in the smoke they pump out into the rooms, and like whatever you see is going to be part hallucination. And the esteemed lady in Rose and Gold is one of its most famous workers, a legendary performer. She is like on the job. She is always perfectly beautiful and intriguing, and like acts as some sort of weird goddess or psychopomp. And off the job, her descriptors are intellectual, beautiful, vulgar.
Nice. I love being an intellectual, beautiful,
Yeah.
vulgar person. Like that kind of person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Excellent. Amazing. Yeah, and this person is my vice purveyor. My vice is luxury. I think she's basically like Freya's mentor, as it were. And also a point of order, like I've like we've been a bit loosey-goosey on people's ages and so on, and I've described Freya as like young. But let's say that she's like of an age where this sort of like environment would not be fucked up.
I mean that would be I was gonna mention this, but like one of my lines is children taking drugs. So like it's a PC, so it's not a huge it's like it hits different, but it's useful to know that like she's not, probably like old older than that, and we don't have to necessarily be like, specific.
Did you say 16 at some point?
Basically what I'm saying is that this is like the red light district. There's like sex workers, there's drugs and everywhere. Let's say that she's old enough that it's fine, but also like not old enough that she can navigate this world without exploitation or like this is a good influence and so on. She's young, she's precocious and so on, but like she's not like
it's also not the only thing that goes on in Ashcloister, right? There's also a lot of just like tea houses where people play music, and that's the whole thing of it. And like people think of it as dishonorable work, but there's nothing unsavory going on really. It's just music. It's just people look down on musicians.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's that.
Yeah. I just want a point for the audience so that we know that there isn't a minor running around in this sort of environment. That's all. Yeah, and this is my imagination for what the esteemed lady in shades of rose and gold might look like. So I think the esteemed lady in shades of rose and gold, and I think like when I speak to her, I call her just the lady. When she is performing, it's like almost inhuman, right? She's a whirl of limbs, dark skin, like golden skin, like just a whirl of limbs, like silken clothes, like saris and so on, gowns that are like hardly there really because they're like just whirling around, right? She's always just dancing like bright colors, brilliant reds, blues, like almost like her shape. It's just a suggestion really, and all that. Like long black hair, usually pinned up, and I think like usually the climax of the evening is when she kind of like lets it down, and then that also like turns into the sort of like whirling fan of like fans and hairs and limbs, and it's like wild, frenetic, but also like hypnotizingly beautiful. And I think to kind of like demarcate her shape amongst all of this, like because there's like bright, usually golden light and so on. Of course, it's the mystery, so you can never really be sure about one thing, right? But like all the bright backdrop lights and so on, the thing that like highlights her, so that you can like always be aware of her shape moving around, is the tattoos, the golden tattoos, like literally golden tattoos that like glimmer on her skin as the light falls on her.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's what she looks like on the job. I think off the job, how would one such as this like look like off the job? I think she is still recognizable as being her, right? But like she's wearing nice clothes, like really nice, like proper, like really well tailored clothes and so on, but not like garish show clothes, right? And I think she kind of like goes to a little bit of pain usually, like when she's like wants to be incognito to kind of like hide the golden like tattoos that cover her flesh and all that.
I get the feeling that like she puts on like just a little bit of makeup, so that if someone looks like she's still on the job even when she's off the job, right? Like it doesn't work if she ever looks, except in her most private moments, anything apart from like very beautiful and so on. But like she's much more dressed down comparatively. I think today her at one of these tea houses, or are you meeting her at the mystery?
I'm meeting her at the Chipped Cup, I
Yes.
believe it's called. Which is which is officially a tea house, but it's basically a luxurious brothel and entertainment venue. Everyone in the show business kind of shows up here either to work or to just kind of chill out when
Yeah.
they aren't working.
The way that I imagine this is that so Ashcloister is kind of like huge building that's kind of crumbled. It's now somewhat open to the sky, and it's like verticality of Uduwasha. It's not at the top, but it's not at the bottom either. There are things below it, right? And the way that I imagine the Chipped Cup is that they've requisitioned a part, or quite a large part of the, carved out a little amphitheater, put up a bar, but there's also more private rooms for people who want that kind of thing. Like sex work does happen there, so there's all of that stuff. Where the esteemed lady meets you is, in fact, I think there are two bars, and I think she meets you in the bar that is frequented by the entertainment professionals, the people who work in this district who go there, not the tourists. And I think she is holding court, which is to say, not that like she's like, oh, I'm great and everybody's here. That when she comes into this kind of space, everybody knows that people are like shooting her looks and that kind of thing, and she's just very unhurriedly drinking some brandy, waiting for you to turn up. Or maybe like, have you made this plan, or is this?
No, she hasn't seen me in a
yeah,
year.
of course.
Yeah. So I'm going to roll to indulge vice to kind of like see. Usually, like someone like me would only be allowed in this space if
Yeah.
I'm part of her entourage,
Yeah.
if I come in with her. But now I'm trying to come to see her. Like,
Yeah.
will they let me in even? Let's have that roll.
4, and you had
It's a
6
4.
stress, so I mean it's pretty good. I think what happens is that maybe the way that like entry into this part of the building works is that like the bouncer only lets you in if they recognize you, and this bouncer doesn't recognize you. It does mean that they're not going to let you in, right? And I think what happens is that the esteemed lady sees you almost from across the room, and she just whispers something to someone who's standing behind her, one of the waiters, and like the waiter walks up to you, whispers something to the bouncer, and you're kind of let in. And the way that like that now, you're here because the esteemed lady has let you in is now everyone's being very nice to you.
I think Freya waltzes in with like a skip in her step and probably like grabs a cup of tea, quote unquote. It's laced with like all sorts of fucking booze, I guess. Grabs a cup of tea and kind of like pirouettes with it, and then she kind of like goes up to her ladyship, kind of goes down on her knee, takes an exquisitely painted hand and kind of gives it a kiss. And this is like, so actually no, she doesn't take the hand. She kind of like bends the knee and then she kind of like falls to her. She kind of like falls down and then she kind of like kisses a foot in the sort of like a sign of respect that you would give to your ustad.
And she waits for you to look back up at her. A moment passes when neither of you say anything. Then she says, I thought you fell off the face of the earth.
I did. I was swallowed up by. I was swallowed up by a most sinister cabal, and then I kind of stand up and I kind of gesture my hands. And there's one of those things where people are always like telling tall tales, so I can almost literally tell the story of what happened to me, and no one's going to give a shit. I was swallowed. I was taken. I was kidnapped by a sinister cabal. A god chose me to be his scion, his avatar, and I was given visions of future conquests. I was going to be the Queen of Scotland. And then I was rescued. I was delivered. And now I am safe. And now I am back to you, wiser, stronger, more powerful than ever before, eager to learn the mysteries that you can teach me, your ladyship. And I'm giving her a big smile. It's like a combination of like, yeah, I'm intentionally
Yeah.
putting this on, like, I'm laying it on thick, but I'm very happy to be back here and you can teach me so
Yeah.
much for sure. Really.
It's also like quite striking that like everything that you have said applies both to you and to a young person who's just been groomed by some noble. And I think like that's kind of what she picks up on as well. And like she cocks her head. Didn't I tell you not to get mixed up in dumb shit like this?
It was one of the lessons that I admit that I was not paying as much attention to as I should have. Because the dumb shit came and snatched me off the streets. But I want to get to the point of your instruction where I can see that dumb shit coming a mile away, smell it, and just not even be there when it shows up.
Yeah, I should hope so. Life expectancy for people like you in this town? It's like 3.
And I am still here after, and then she starts like
Yeah.
counting. I don't think she actually
Yeah,
knows
no,
how
fair.
old she is.
And he says, yes, no,
Yeah.
that was a joke. You don't have to. Forgot how literal you can be sometimes. I am, of course, incredibly happy, alive and safe. Would you mind telling me where you are now?
And then everyone's like looking
Yep.
at us, right? And I think Freya has a choice here. I think but she makes the choice that I think like is consistent with her. She kind of like turns to everyone and then smiles and says, I am now given amnesty and shelter amongst the temple of the ceaseless serpent. The Chakraborty smiles upon me. And I am privileged to have such holy and such mighty friends watching over me. And I'm intentionally saying this to kind of like raise the profile of the temple as well.
And I think while you've turned away, you missed the 1 second where an expression of is being like very languid and at ease and like nothing really affects me kind of vibe. And there's one moment of like very stern and sharp attention directed at you when you point the other way and you say, I have been granted amnesty by. And then it vanishes again underneath that mask of languid ease. And she says, and me, I would like to note that she's also under my protection while we're in here. So, keep your grubby little hands to yourselves.
Yeah, and I give a grain of like genuine pleasure because I don't think there's that many people here. In fact, I don't think there is anyone here who has ever been able to claim that they are under the personal protection and so on of the esteemed lady. And I think Freya like goes so far as to kind of like touch surreptitiously, kind of like touch the esteemed lady's calf because I think she's still sitting down, like sitting at her master's feet, right? Kind of like gives the calf a short squeeze of like a certain degree of familiarity, and I think like the relationship between these two people is closer than just the sort of like Ustad Chela, like the master apprentice relationship, and something a bit more like not mother daughter, but like sisterly, I suppose. And I think like Freya kind of like looks at the esteemed lady and says, if we have a minute, I would very much like to speak to you in private, your ladyship. And we don't need to play out that conversation, but like if it happens, then I think like she will really like to like actually catch the lady up with what
I think that like in this case, the way that this happens is that 5 minutes later, the only people in the bar are you, and the bartender, and he like buys you enough drinks for the entire conversation, and the bartender also.
I think there's definitely a certain degree of like crying from Freya's part as she kind of like I don't think she
Yeah.
holds back at all. Like everything she remembers about like being possessed and so on, and like her genuine gratefulness now of being given shelter and finally being able to see the
Yeah.
lady again. She kind of like pours her soul out, and then she kind of just looks at the lady to see, you know, what her reaction
Yeah,
to
and I
any of this
think
is.
that like you see her. Maybe you don't see this, but the camera sees her briefly consider admonishment, briefly consider of doubling down on this lesson that you've been given and make sure you never do it again. And then she casts that thought aside as being, unkind but also unnecessary. And she gathers you up into her arms, said, "This will never happen to you again. We'll make sure it doesn't happen to you again, one way or another." Yes?
Freya doesn't say anything and just kind of like holds the esteemed lady tight, confident that never again will some strange paranormal extraplanar entity show an inordinate amount of interest in her and her life.
And for a moment, we see the tiles of the now mosaic constructed roof. We see them twist, transform very briefly into the stylized face of an elephant before transforming back. No, for transforming once more into something new. You'll be fine, man. I believe in you.
Yeah.
You need to take a special ability called Elephant Demon No Fucky, and it'll be fine. Great.
Yeah, I liked that scene. I liked how it very much humanized both Freya and the esteemed lady who was introduced. Like when I introduced her, I imagined her as this very mysterious and aloof person. But I liked that this scene there was like a human relationship there. That was very cool.
I think this is one of the few people who can claim an actual human relationship with the esteemed lady.
Yeah, absolutely. No, she keeps people at an arm's length.
I mean, you would have to.
That's what she do.
Yeah. And I think that this is a good time to mention the free play scene that I'm thinking about, which is that your lawyer, your pro bono lawyer, is going to come to the temple when all of you are around. I think he's going to plan this well enough.
I also want to spend some coin on downtime activities.
Actually. I also have a free downtime activity.
Oh, yes. You have a free downtime activity. Okay, let's do that. I just wanted to flag this because I want you to know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely will happen. But I know what I'm doing with my coin now, so I want to do that. But we can do a bus first.
No, you can go first.
Okay, I have just a small scene in mind because I'm going to continue working on the Augustus Khan project and also indulging my vice. I'm going to be spending some money on this, but I mean, he is part of the roofball team, so this will make sense. And so what we will see is the crew somewhere very, very high up in Uduasha. You know, like the tallest districts. We will see Augustus Khan being brought out and the entire team being there, I think. And Vickers takes him up and like casually converses with him. She says, "Well, as you are quite aware, Mr. Khan, every roofball team in this city has something that makes them special, something that makes them stand out. It's part of the rules of the beautiful game." And yeah, it's apparently a rule that every team must have a thing.
It's now a rule. If your team is not unique, you may not compete.
And so, this is hardly an ancient tradition, but something I pulled together myself, I will admit. But it was under consultation from some friends here. Our team is called the Rooftop Angels, and every member must earn their wings. I think we're at the stage where we can try you out for it. Though I must remind you, she says, and she stares at him kind of sternly, that you did attempt to seriously injure my husband. I would like you to keep that in mind as this exercise comes up. All right?
Mon ami. In war, all this is to be expected.
Indeed. You're coming along nicely on the accent, I must say.
The trick is to not actually speak Severosi, but merely affect it in Iruvian.
You know, you ought to take acting classes. I'm sure there's something up in Ashcloister. Anyway, I would like you to try on, at least, a pair of wings. And she will hold up a harness with wings on it, similar but not exactly the same to what Vickers wears, and we will see why
I mean, he's going to wear it.
So he gets strapped into his wings, and I think it's put on him by the other Roofball members. And then Vickers will point at like a runway that leads out over the Great Drop. All right, so this is a little exercise I like to call taking the plunge. Oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing ritual or anything magical like that. You know, the temple would never approve, and besides, Uncle Abbas knows all about that sort of thing. No, this is a simple trust exercise.
I think you're gonna have to roll. You're gonna have to roll to see first how he reacts.
Sure, I will. I guess I'll roll sway.
No, I was just gonna say you're indulging vice, right? So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
As in,
first.
so we can just use the same as that to see.
Totally fair. I roll a 4.
You rolled twice. Was that just an accident?
Oh yes, it was. But it was a 4 both times, so it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll roll for the project in a second, but the reason I wanted this was because I think this will determine how enthusiastic he is about this. And with a 4, he will say, this is something of a challenge. I will not shy from it. Yes. Onward and upward. That is what I say. I may have become or something. I don't know. I'm glad that his accent is very bad.
Yeah, Vickers stares at him as he puts on this bravado. And she says, "Oh, this is not about you. This is about teamwork, as all of Roofball is. Now, I do hope you haven't delivered serious injury to any of the loved ones of your team members."
And I think he will say, Augustus Khan believes in love and not war. Sailor. What is love in French? Aim. Sailor aim. Not Sailor guerre.
Fantastic. You really are coming along quite nicely. Well, that's what this is all about. A simple exercise of love. It conquers all, remember? Do go on, take the plunge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is going to happen here is that this harness is attached to a rope. And this rope is not attached to anything other than the other team members. They are going to catch you before you fall to your death. And that's why this is a trust exercise. It is, pretty safe in the sense that a whole team of people holding onto a roof, or holding onto rope, are going to be able to prevent you from falling. But it's also the case that, if they don't like you, they can't let go.
And they can let you in that fear for which absolutely feels like millennia when you're falling. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
So yes. Sway, fortune roll.
No, I think Augustus Khan is your crew contact. You can have a free die from him.
Oh yes, he is. Thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I roll a 6 and finish the project.
And I think it's because they really feel like he's changed. Because nobody would act like this if they didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it also shows that Morrison used to be a coward, right? Who was just bullied around by the hive, and he would never trust them like this. But now he does take the plunge, and the team saves him, and he will experience the sheer terror of dangling high above the city, held on to a rope by only his team members, and he will feel loved.
As he's dangling, what is the guy who he's living with called? Pierre, yeah. I think Pierre will yell down at him and say, "Take in the sights. See, look at how beautiful the well looks." Kind of being both helpful, but also,
Yes. And with this project being finished, I am adding Augustus Khan to my team roster as a full member. And I think we also said that it would give them one more tag for having a lieutenant.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I will think a bit about what that is. But yeah, I've strengthened the team. We now have another person who is experienced in giving orders, because that is what he used to do, right? So he is now not quite second in command maybe, but some sort of coordinator.
I think second in command would be he makes decisions and communicates them. In this case, you make decisions, he communicates.
Mhm.
Maybe independent or courageous.
Le courage!
Mhm. Yeah, loyal independent makes sense actually to add.
I think some kind of tag reflecting how unified as a team they are could also work. They have loyal.
Yeah, but they already have loyal, so
Yeah.
loyal and independent, I think, is fitting. Like they now can act. They have not been very good at
No, they
acting
haven't.
without Vickers in the
Correct.
past, so
Yes.
now they presumably are. And I mean, this is an exercise for the whole team, right? Not just Augustus. Like everyone is getting better at working together, bring on new people. So I have noted down one of my team members as Augustus Khan, mysterious, audacious, excessively French.
Apparently, Severus is French. I have just made this canon. So,
yes,
you know, just so you know. Yeah.
Cavalry.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the connection. Okay.
Um,
Brilliant. So I have indulged my vice and strengthened my team.
How is who else has downtime left? Is it a boss and and then like any does anyone else have any downtime they want to do as well? I think Joan had something that she also wanted to do.
Yeah, I want to spend coin for a downtime, but let's have a bath first.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna do healing, which I notice I still have to do 2 ticks off. So I think we need like a scene for this, because could just go to my doctor friend.
I mean, she'll berate you a little bit for being, careless. Yeah.
These are cold burns.
Yeah. She'll be like, "Oh, I can't believe you went climbing like this without." Oh no, it's ghost burns, not rope burns. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I think she will be like, "How did you even get these? What kind of dumb shit are you doing?" But she also talked to you, like she's also involved in your newspaper. So she's also going to talk to you about like how the newspaper work's going, all the stuff.
Hey, we can talk about the feature that we just did.
Yeah, on a mysterious person. Yeah.
On the Roof team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you even find this guy?
So remind me how the bonus die work. It's
Yeah, you just get an extra die because Triparna is your friend. But that's a 3 and a 2. So it's only 1 tick, unfortunately. Not surprisingly, an Iruvian Uduashi doctor trained classically does not have very much experience treating ghost burns because it's not a problem that really happens. I mean, she's given you some reasonable advice, but it's not really like. I mean, this is like if someone turns up in the Arctic Circle being like suffering heat stroke. It is possible you could suffer heat stroke in the Arctic Circle, I guess. Anyway, something like that.
She's just given me an ice pack. Like,
yeah, great. And what about Joan?
So normally she would have done this over a significant amount of time. She's looking for a particular person, you see. She would have taken some time to like establish a relationship with some people who like know them, blah blah blah. But now she's just gonna grease palms.
Yeah.
And that's why she's spending a coin. Because the person she is looking for, the person she is hunting, in fact, is someone of not too high position who is working on the Ashcroft Zeppelin project.
Absolutely.
Airship project. Specifically someone who gets involved with Bashundara's architecture, with her blueprints.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is hunt this person and going to try and hypnotize them into sending her a lot of complaints about her blueprints, so that she is buried in paperwork back.
Absolutely. And I have I have a devil's bargain for you here, which is that one of the arms that you grease will be someone connected to House Anixis, which we shouldn't forget is still interested in you. And it will, like, because they're interested in you, I think in this case that person will like give you some extra help. But that information will also go back up, get kicked upstairs.
I'm interested in it, but hypnotic does already include pushing
Oh,
himself.
makes sense. Well, such is life. I'll just keep this in mind for next time. Because I keep forgetting how Synixis is interested in you.
Yeah. So I assume finding this
Yes.
person and
I think
getting
it's just a
him as
fortune roll. Yeah.
For that will be
Mhm.
a hunt, fortune, 2 bonus dice, or a bonus
Pushing.
die
Yep,
from
that's 2 dice.
push himself. That's 2 dice.
2 and a 1.
Doesn't
I think
go
you
particularly
find
well.
something that you don't like hearing, which is that most of these people are like in their positions because of nepotism. And as a result, they are not super competent. So you get in the right like ears, you give them the right instructions or whatever. A lot of these like complaints that get sent to her are very easily kind of dispatched because they make basic mistakes, right? And like someone like Boshundara, who is so incredibly well versed with this kind of thing, just goes, oh, this one's not even worth it. That one, that's something's wrong in that form, whatever. And like what should take her 3 days takes her half a day. It was worth a try.
It was worth a try. Alright.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything else?
I was just wondering if I should just spend a coin to try healing again and just
I think it's worth it.
try to get this over with. I'll go back to Tripart and be like, yeah, this didn't work at all. Used to be good. What happened?
I mean, you are 1 tick away.
Yeah, you will
so
just complete
you
the
will
clock.
automatically succeed.
Oh well,
It was a 3. So
I mean, I
oh
missed
yes,
some
okay,
rolls
yeah,
because I didn't
fair.
take the extra
Roll
dice,
another
so-
die. It's still a 3.
I'll just
Wow.
roll one more. It's just a 3 again.
But I'll tell you what happens. You were like, used to be so good, and then she tries it again, right? And then you're healed. Not because she's very good or she finally figured out how to treat ghost burns, but because, it's just been a while.
Yeah.
You spend so much time being treated that it just naturally
Time
heals.
heals all wounds, that's what they say.
Maybe what she does is just speed up time on the wound a little bit.
Wow. Wound relativity? That's wow.
I mean, we do follow the
That's
God
true.
of Time, so
Yeah. I see what you did there.
there you go.
Great. Then let's see Hardil turning up at the temple. And I do think that by and large, Sajidan has not been in the temple because he's still going to see Miraz every day. And I think Hardil has chosen this moment to make sure not only that Zajidan is not here, but also that like both Padmapriya and Padmamukhi are not here, and Maud is not here either. It's just the 4 of you temple. So what time of day do you think that would be? Probably like maybe after lunch.
Yeah, lunch is fine.
That's good. And like he walks in like he owns the place, which I think in his head maybe he does. Possession is 9/10 of the is what he would say to that.
But he doesn't possess it, so fuck him. We'll see. Maybe he doesn't.
Yes,
I don't know.
indeed.
He knows the law. I don't.
So yeah, I mean, who is going to greet him?
I think Abbas will do it because presumably Hardil is here for. Well, I mean, Abbas is like, oh, yeah, Hardil, excellent. We can sort this out.
He's your lawyer, damn it.
Is he my lawyer?
Well, he's the temple's lawyer. You're the temple.
Yeah. Abbas was gone for a while, and then he came back, and Hardil was just there. So
Yeah, I mean, yes, that is what is happening now.
there. So, but I think like we can play to that because I think like Abbas would actually not be entirely sure where he stands with Hardil because again, like this is a guy that Miraz brought in.
Yeah.
And what does Miraz know?
That suits Hardil very well because
So-
that confusion is exactly what is going to permit him to take advantage.
Right. So yeah, I think Abbas is waiting there like Hardil, yeah, good of you to come. I sure you know what's been going on here with this big emotional hurler that's trying to just drown us in paperwork. And I assume that you're like you got some kind of idea of what to do about
Yes. Well, this is exactly what I wanted to speak with you about. Now, is Miraz still recuperating? And I was hoping to have this conversation with all of you.
Miraz is still in the hospital, yes. But whatever you wanted to say to him, you can say to me.
And how about Freya? He and I were corresponding on a number of matters before, of course, that incident in the grotto. I certainly hoped to be here.
And is Freya here?
Freya is very pointedly not here, that you, insofar as you can tell. She is hiding from Hartel, but watching.
Okay. I think I was just a little look around, like, well, I don't know where she is, but teenage girls, right? Look, whatever business you had with her, we can deal with her later. The important thing here is what's going to happen with the temple.
Yes. No, sorry. Please, Miraz's wife, Joan. Sorry, I'm so sorry. And Vickers. Is that her name? Joan is the other Akro.
I think I was like, Miraz is married to Vickers. And Joan is from Scotland. Are you sure you're a lawyer? You should know,
you know how it
things.
is. So many details to keep track of. In any case, will they be joining us?
I think Vickers, having heard her name mentioned, is going to come inside. And this takes place at the temple, right? Yeah. So I think Vickers is like wearing an apron, a gas mask, and a pair of rubber gloves, and comes in going like, "Sorry, did someone call me? Do you know it's very difficult to get binding oil out of the pots and pans?"
And Hardil, who was here when he heard that, binding oil in pots and pans, says,
yes.
I actually know someone who might be able to help with that. I could put you in touch with him, but I was hoping to have a conversation with you and perhaps with Joan as well. I hear Freya is not present. Would you like to take a seat? And genuinely in your own house offers you a seat.
Oh, well, I suppose I have time for a chat, Vickers will say, and take off her protective equipment from the... the thing is, Miraz could fix this if he were around, but he's not. And so Vickers is improvising. The kitchen is now very dangerous.
Joan walks in eating an apple from outside.
Yeah.
What's all this then?
Joan, I see that nearly everybody I wanted to speak to is finally here. Now, as you know, the Udaiput Society for... I swear I know this name.
It's the Udaiput Development.
Yeah, I see. So he says, as we know, the Udaiput Development and Restoration Committee is currently engaged in a legal process against the temple. And not to put too fine a point on it, but of my current prowess has already been expended on ensuring that, I was hoping to speak to Freya about this, but she attempted to interfere with some files. And it was quite sloppy, and I had to intervene to clear that up. And I'm afraid that does leave me somewhat in a pickle. I was hoping that, given that you are responsible for her, you might be willing to pay me back. Now, of course, you are struggling under the burden of the Development and Restoration Committee, and I was wondering if you would be interested in me taking that problem off your plate entirely.
Okay, I should flag that as Abbas. I do have looking into a mirror, so I can tell if
Hardil is not lying to you about Freya getting caught trying to fiddle with files. And he's definitely not lying to you about potentially solving your war.
I'm sorry, Hardil. Freya contacted you to solve some problem for her?
She and a friend of hers tried to break into the bureaucratic offices replace some files, make the temple seem less interesting than it was, and ultimately did not do as good a job as she needed to. Now, I have a friend who has a friend. They were able to clear up the problem, but I'm afraid it's put me out of pocket. And
Oh, I see. This is. Oh, I see. This is part of your pro bono work,
yes,
of course.
indeed.
Like, thank you so much for that.
Unfortunately, the pro bono element somewhat disappears when I am forced to help you. Now, if you would prefer, I will simply instruct my acquaintance's acquaintance to replace the files with the ones that Freya altered, and I'm sure in a matter of days, the bureaucracy's police will be here again. Trying.
If this is simply a matter of covering your expenses, I don't see why we shouldn't lend a hand.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of framing it as, clearly he is working for free because he promised, but, maybe he had to pay someone else.
Yeah.
He has expenses.
And he says,
that's fine.
Well, yes, that is very kind, but, well, you see, I find myself in need of some help. And your specific crew is more able to provide this help to me than anyone else. I was hoping that I might ask you with that manner of compensation rather than cash.
This is called as a crew. As if we are some gaggle of common scoundrels.
Ah, yes, I'm so sorry. Merely an error of phrasing. What I meant to say, of course, is that the priesthood of this temple has gathered unto itself some very specific powers, and ideally, of course, Miraz would be here as well to speak with me, but I hear that he's still recuperating, and so...
So I see, you're looking for a niece or nephew to bless. Well, I'm sure we can arrange
I see that it may need to be somewhat more direct.
Yeah, this is what we do.
Yes.
This is the only actual work Vickers has seen with us do, which is to bless someone's kid.
This is the kind of verbal sparring that, like, Vickers kind of, like, has been around as, like, the son of the daughter of a noble.
Yes, but also she sucks at it, so...
And she said, he says, well, you see, I have some goods that were meant to come into Uduasha by train, and they've been held up in the Imperial Quarter. Now, it's some problem with paperwork, and normally I would be able to smooth all of this over, but unfortunately, these items to be delivered quite quickly, and I'm not quite able to manage that. I was wondering whether you might be able to assist me with acquiring them.
Oh, what manner of goods are they?
Oh, certain implements to do with glass blowing and wax making. I work for someone whose interests are us, and this is merely some capital to get his next little business venture.
And why are they being held up by the Imperium?
I believe that it is because the Imperium dislikes the traditional Iruvian method of glassmaking and wishes to prevent him from entering the industry.
And your client is an Iruvian, you say?
I mean, surely you can tell that that's a lie.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes, he doesn't know that you have like looking into a mirror, right?
Right.
So you can tell it's a lie, and you can call him on it if you like. But if you ask him who his client is, he will say, I think Munna has a real name, but he's not going to say Munna's real name. He's going to say one of like Munna's many aliases, right? So he will say, what is a good name? He will say, he's a man called Mr. Peter Samhorse.
And
That is also a lie.
Mr. Peter Samhorse is a traditional Iruvian glassblower, is he?
Oh, no. He is seeking to invest in traditional Iruvian glassblowing. He's heard that these techniques are far superior. Of course, he's Akarosi himself. He's not Akarosi. He's Dagger Islander.
So is he interested in anyone's work in particular? Anyone I might have heard of?
Oh, I doubt that you have heard of them. Mr. Sam Horse's interests are, to be frank, beyond even my ability to hold in my mind. And, well, I do not wish to boast, but he has a business empire that spans much of the Shattered Isles. So it is difficult to keep track. I believe he's importing the expertise partially from outside Uduasha. Funnily enough, that sentence doesn't sound like a lie.
I think Freya is going to emerge from the inside of a vase. She's going to stick her head up out of it. She's going to lean on the rim of the vase, and she's going to say, "Listen, I got you into trouble, and I'm sorry for that. But here's what's happening. Because I got you into trouble, he is using that as leverage for you guys to essentially rob an Imperial train full of stuff for Mr. Peter Samhorse, whose name is not Mr. Peter Samhorse."
I think Abbas's main conflict here is that, like, this seems exactly like the kind of thing he would get up to, back in the day.
Yeah,
robbing.
absolutely.
It's just,
Like, he definitely chose the anti-imperial angle on purpose, right? Like, he was like, "Oh yeah, if I say anti-imperial, and Miraz isn't here, that's not a coincidence. He's done it precisely when Miraz isn't here."
I think I'm going to still lean on the thing and say, "No, Mr. Harddill, I know you and I have had dealings in the past, which I do not remember at all. And I'm being honest there. I don't remember a single thing we talked about. But I vaguely remember that you're someone who really understands their business. And I think if you want them who are not thieves to rob an Imperial train, I think you need to have." Okay, so I doctored some documents. Okay, that's my business. And also, like, it can't be worth the risk that you're talking about. So, like, what else is there in it for them if they were to do it, right? And I'm kind of like helping, telling him to sweeten the deal, like, help teaching him, like, this isn't how you manipulate people, you moron.
Yeah, sure. But I think, unfortunately, in doing this, you've given him an excellent way to discredit you. And he's going to turn back to Abbas and say, "So this is why I was hoping that Freya might be present, because I also wanted to address some of these, she has these wild ways of speaking. When I was transacting with her, before the incident in the grotto, she had this way of talking which was quite hyperbolic. Rob a train. I hope you understand that I would never work pro bono for a..."
I'm going to throw dirt at him from the vase.
Why don't you roll a fortune roll just to see whether it hits him or whether he's fast enough to dodge? Seems like a hunt,
I guess
but it could be anything. I mean, you tell me.
I'm going to make it finesse for him to not notice that it's happening
Okay, fair.
until it hits him.
Yeah. 6. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Whereas now, like, it hits him square in the back of the head, and he says, "Ah, you see."
I think Abbas stickers and he goes, "Oh, sorry, bit of problem with the ceiling over there."
and like,
Yeah.
he looks at you very imperiously and says, "Mr. Chakraborty, you and I both know we are men of the world. And Freya has a very overactive imagination. And to be honest, quite a powerful throwing arm. But the inconvenience you have caused me is not. Now, I'm merely asking you to do me a favor in return for the favor I have done you. If you do not wish to do this, I will rescind my own favor. I will accept that I had no business in that matter, and I will merely continue representing you on the committee."
Mr. Hardell, I do not know you. I do not know why you've come to this temple. I don't know what my nephew has been up to, and I don't particularly have much to do with what Freya gets up to in her own time. I wish you would speak plainly. Why have you come to us, a temple, to come and help you rob an accuracy train?
I think he's going to try a different tack. And I think he says, Very well. The truth is that I work for someone who very badly needs these materials, and it could make a great change to both him and his business. But I'm afraid that they simply refuse to sell them to us. We have made several quite good offers, and they have each been rejected for reasons that we cannot fathom. And this is the only bit that pings you off as a lie. He knows exactly why he's been rejected. It's because Munna is a criminal, among other things.
Yeah, but also imperial trade embargoes are real.
Yeah,
so-
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they don't want to give the high-tech technology to someone else. They want their people to use it, right? And he says, and so you are a respectable organization. I certainly don't expect you to break into the place and rob it. If you have some other way of solving this problem, I completely encourage you to go through with that instead. But
I'm sure we can resolve the matter. We have connections in the Imperial Quarter. And, well, as a temple, I'm sure we are quite at our means to negotiate some sort of settlement. That said, Mr. Hardill, I would advise you not to discredit Freya again. Victor says that there is an actual note of menace to this, because the fact that he goes no, she's talking bullshit after she's been through actual trauma is actually very much upsetting to Vickers.
Yeah, fair. And I think he will pick up on that and he will say, I apologize, no offense was meant. I merely meant to say that this accusation of robbery completely baseless and unfounded. It's not. And I think then he says, I also wished to discuss a more permanent relationship, as, again, Mr. Samhorse, who I work for, does have a very powerful business empire. We could very likely solve this problem of Begum Bashundara quite easily, but we would not do such a thing for free. And so if you would be interested in that form of relationship, Mr. Samhorse is an excellent employer. He pays me and everybody else he works for on time, and all he asks in return is efficiency, loyalty, and good common sense. I mean, again, that's a lie in that he asks much, much more than that. But,
Also, these are not qualities we possess.
Yes, we have already agreed to his pro bono lawyer work, so I feel like from an out-of-character perspective, Vickers has no opinion on this, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's funny if we, from an out-of-character perspective, just agree to continue to work with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have this legal trouble from Begum Bashundara and whatnot, so it makes sense that we can strike some sort of a deal, I think, out of character. But Vickers is not going to have an opinion on it. She does, however, have an opinion on this whole robbery score, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah. So basically, what I want to kind of flag here, again, out of character, is that this is exactly the kind of situation in which a much bigger fish than both of you would turn up to pressure you, right? So they would be like, we can make this problem go away. All you need to do is exactly what we say, right?
So just to be clear, if we do the score, he's basically saying that the war goes away, or
No.
that he will help us with the war.
Yeah, the score is for helping Freya. So that's a short-term thing. The long-term thing is you work for Munna and we'll protect you.
Yeah, he'll be our ward boss formally, which he already is, but we kind of don't know that he is.
Yeah, and also force you to do even more things. This is very much the case where if you weren't a Blades in the Dark crew and you were more naive than you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm down for this direction. I think it's got good tension, and it also is a great excuse for us to do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Out of character, that seems interesting. In character, he wasn't lying about supporting traditional Iruvian glassblowing.
He actually wasn't. But I think that the reason that he wasn't lying about that is that he's getting people from outside Uduasha to come in as cheaper labor. and make it here, right? And that is why he kind of went,
Oh.
wait, getting people from outside Uduasha, haha, was because basically he's getting some refugees in from Kethris and so on to set up here, and he wants to like undercut the local competition. And it would be very easy to do that if he had accuracy technology kind of making that even more efficient.
I mean, I feel like that's the sort of thing that we should gather information to learn.
Sure.
Like, I don't know how I feel about just knowing that.
Getting more information on what he's doing. But I feel like this is a fun collaboration. I do, however, think that about this score, I think what Vickers would say is like, very well, if you're attempting to buy these components or whatever they are, and they won't sell them to you, we shall make sure to procure them. Now, we would need the money to exchange for the goods, of course. And I think Vickers' plan is she's opposed to stealing, but if we break in, take the stuff, and leave the money, then we haven't technically stolen. We've just done a trade deal that they...
Sure.
Central trade deal.
Yes.
Very aggressive negotiations.
Yes.
How hard would it be for us, legitimate temple, to, I don't know, get this stuff for our, like...
For our renovation. For
renovation,
yeah. We could also obtain it diplomatically, but I think it makes sense that we just ask him for the money up front, and then we go and...
And I think he just thinks you're asking for payment here, and he will say, well, again, I'm already out of pocket helping Freya avoid the consequences of her unwise actions, but I'm sure that we can spare some cash to make this work out. Again,
if we are to purchase the items for you, we are going to need something to purchase them with. But once that's settled, we shall go ahead with it.
Very well. I will send along a credit note, and it's as good as cash. Not, to be clear, because like a credit note is made out to like a specific person.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. This makes it legit in Vickers' mind. We can leave the note that says like I owe you.
I owe you, yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I owe you, sweet FA.
The reason that like he is also issuing a note is that he doesn't want you. And this is like a classic thing in these kinds of deals, right? Where like you tell him it's 6 coin, you tell the other side it's 3 coin. You make the 3 coin yourself, right? And so he basically is like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna give you like 1 piece of paper, and if you want to subcontract,
of course,
good luck.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Vickers is legit not trying to screw him over.
Yeah,
it's just, stealing is wrong.
Yeah.
But if we leave a note saying like, please collect your payment from this bank, then that makes it fine.
I mean, he's got a suspicious mind, so
Yep.
It's gonna be wonderful where they're gonna end up with this stolen stuff, and there's gonna be a note that please collect your payment from Harper.
Yes.
I mean, again, money laundering.
It's the perfect crime. No one would ever know.
Yes. Exactly. I mean, that's his problem.
Okay. Proposition then. We gather information, we do the engagement roll and so on, and then we call it a session.
Sounds good.
I think so.
I had an alternate idea, which maybe not as fun, but I was thinking that maybe we could so who would the accuracy sell this stuff to? Well, someone like the Udaput Development and Restoration Society, right? So maybe we could forge a request to buy it, have it delivered somewhere, and just pick it up on.
There's no reason why we can't combine these ideas. We can legitimately buy the goods, and then I don't know. I guess a funny way to do it would be to set up the opportunity for the Udaput inspection board to buy them, and then that turns into. We wouldn't plan this, to be clear. This is just what would happen.
Yeah.
The board goes we want to buy these goods, and then they get invited to inspect the goods, and then we forcibly buy them once we're invited in. sort of combining the ideas, right? Like we get a
Yeah.
legitimate invitation to go and take a look at them and buy them, and then when they start to
Yes.
question us, it maybe falls apart. But then we buy them anyway by stealing them and leaving a note.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I guess yeah. I mean, we to steal the stuff we need an inn, and I guess the inn could be. Oh yes, we're here from the like food development society. Yeah. All
We're
right.
sent by a good friend, Bagel
Yeah.
Freeman.
Yes, I mean it could. To be clear, it could be a social score. I don't mind. It's just that we just had a social score. So
Mhm.
Oh no, but I do also like the idea of us just trying to sneak in when we are very poorly equipped to do so.
yes, I feel like it's interesting to have it be a middle ground where our plan starts out with like trying to fake documents to attempt to buy them, but we
Yeah.
like know out of character that it won't go all the way, and we will have to resort to alternative measures midway through. That feels more in character too.
Yeah. All right. I'm okay with that. I like us trying to do it the way we'd be good at doing it, failing, and then having to do what we're very much not good at.
Sounds like a plan.
The reason Hadil was approaching it like this was that the offer to like solve your war for you, if it works, great. But it's also meant to make the offer to do a score seem more reasonable by comparison,
Mhm.
which in character makes some sense. And
Yeah.
this is like he's thought about a fair number of angles, right? Like, which is that you've got connections in the Imperial Quarter, which he knows. Joan used to be a railjack. Like quite flexible, can break into places if she needs. Miraz isn't around, so we don't have to worry about that angle, right? Like, there's a few things that he was thinking about. Takes this as the opportunity to like try and make you do.
Before we gather information, though, I want to do a very, very quick down dimension by spending a rep.
Sure.
I'm going to start a long-term project. It's called Who is Mr. Samhorse?
Ah, yes.
Excellent, very good project.
How long would this be?
Let's do
I
it.
feel like this is one of those. The longer it is, the more information you get. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it could be a 4 o'clock to just be like, yeah, he's some crime boss.
Yeah.
But the longer it is, the better the information.
Let's actually, you know what? Let's do it like this. Let's make it a 4 o'clock to discover that it's some kind of crime boss, right? And then let's make it an 8 o'clock to discover which crime boss it is. The reason that I'm saying this is that it's possible that like when you finish the 4 o'clock, somebody comes around and says, "Who the fuck are you and why are you asking questions?"
hmm
And like, if we think of it as a 12 o'clock, that like kind of in the middle of the process thing won't happen.
Fair. So 2 linked clocks. An 8 o'clock to uncover generally his business, and the 4 o'clock, sorry, to uncover generally his business, and then an 8 o'clock to be like get something actually useful about him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like,
All right.
you can absolutely do this, but I will again flag this is like a major crime boss.
Mhm.
It's quite dangerous.
Yeah. I'm going to start off fairly light. I'm going to talk to Juleka about this Hardil fella. And, I mentioned that we're going to be doing some sort of job for Mr. Samhorse, which obviously isn't a real name. But, like, who is this person and why are they interested in these, like, glassblowing things? Do you know anyone? And I think we're going to do, like, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
it's
see
going to be
what
a
she knows.
concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a concert with her,
Yeah.
right?
But
Like, so
do
she's
that.
also asking people.
Yes, correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she's it's 2 ones.
Wow.
Mr. Peter Samhorse, from all accounts, is a somewhat like secretive, well, not secretive, but like people don't know too much about him necessarily, but like he actually does own some industry in Golampit. He owns a tea house in Ashcloister. People know him. Like one of the people that Juleka speaks to is like, oh yeah, I talk to him all the time. Very lovely man. Impossible to like try and catch him unless you book in 3 months in advance. Like just like very like milk toast stuff, and it's almost like nobody can be this unsuspicious, right? Just the fact that this is so carefully like well maintained. I think you're like 1 clock. It's 2 ones. The reason you get 1 tick on this is like, come on. There's no way that he's this like clean.
I'm gonna do it again, and this time I'm gonna just spend a coin.
Uh-huh.
It's same thing, concert again with Julika, but now we're like greasing the wheels. We're sending some money along, and let's see what that drags out.
Okay,
Just because I am very unsatisfied with this.
great. Yeah, absolutely. A 4.
Okay, that's a
Yeah.
two. Or, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I think now just get one conversation with someone who's like maybe like it's a bit hush hush, and they're like, man, you can't ask these questions, man. Like, dude, like it's really. I knew someone who was asking questions about Peter Samhorse, and I heard they didn't just disappear her; they disappeared everyone she was related to. Wild. And again, not great, but definitely points to something shady. Definitely points to something large.
Well, ideally, one should finish this clock before doing a job for this person, but I'm not gonna do that.
No. I am going to gather information about the score, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
And I'm going to find out simply exactly what these items are. Like, what are we actually looking for? And as much as I can about it, maybe where they are and so on, but basically just what is these goods. And I have a contact, Lenora Drakewell, a diplomat, who I think is excellent to talk about with this, because she ought to know about, like, he was telling the truth about they tried to legitimately buy them, I presume, and it just didn't work out.
Absolutely.
So it should be fairly easy to go, like, who tried to buy this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
We can make it maybe a brief scene. What I have about Lenora Drakewell is that she is a friend of Archibald Ashcroft. She's like older than Vickers.
Yeah.
And she is normally very proper and prim, but wild when drunk. And the reason that she's a contact of Vickers is that, like, the few times she has gotten drunk, she's like gone on adventures with Vickers and finds it delightful.
Yeah.
And the reason she's not a close friend is that she's embarrassed about this fact.
Very good. Unlike Vickers herself, who will just decline to be embarrassed.
Yes, in most situations.
Indeed,
anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, I will go see Lenora Drakewell. In fact, I will probably attend one of my father's like social functions. That's usually where I meet her. So probably what happens is that my father has some minor get together, and I will just be there and have a chat with her while I'm there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has to be a scene. I will make a roll.
Yeah, I do think, by the way, that like Elizabeth is definitely at this party and is glaring fucking daggers at you.
Well, I roll a 4 talking to Miss Drakewell.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So I think that like when you approach her with this, she like takes a sip of the very expensive brandy that she's drinking. Says, "Oh, where did you hear about that? That's supposed to be hush hush,
Oh, really?
Ah.
Well, I suppose that makes sense. It was also, I recall, a bit of a hush-hush situation with the silk shipment, now that I think about it. She thinks back to the silk shipment that started this whole mess with Morrison.
And I think Lenora says they did make an offer. They were very persistent, but the information we received from Imperial Intelligence was that in no circumstances were we to correspond further with this buyer. But unfortunately, that has now left us with the shipment, as I suspect the buyer has scared off all others. So the engineers who were meant to be working with us have abandoned train. Oh
dear, whatever could be so sensitive that it can't be sold? My word. Have you asked the Foundation? There are plenty of reputable engineers there. My husband knows them. They could probably be interested. Would you mind letting me know what it is precisely, and I'll pass the word on? But most discreetly, of course.
Indeed, yeah. I think with the 4 you get like some detail, right? So with the 4, he says, "Oh well, you see, there is an engineer somewhere in the Imperial University who has come up with a device that is able to make finer, stronger glass much more quickly. Unfortunately, the glass itself is somewhat more brittle I'm under the impression that the Iruvians have some kind of solution to this problem, but I'm sure it's all nonsense. In any case, we were hoping.
So some sort of vitreous engine?
Yeah, something along those lines. The correct application of heat and a certain transformation between states. Come now, my dear. You know that my head for these things is not quite what it should be.
Of course. No, I don't wish to bore you. I was just remarking it must be rather a large device then, or perhaps several small ones? I'm just curious what they might look like.
No, it is. From what I understand, it is a certain number of. They appear somewhat like viewing machines. You see, they come with their own table, and they are set up in such a fashion so as to aid in the efficient construction of these glass devices. And each device itself does not need the table, but I'm led to understand that each works much better with the other.
Sewing machines for glass. What will they think of next? Isn't technology simply marvelous, Miss Drakewell? Vicar says as she's noticing Drakewell is starting to drink
Indeed.
more.
Yeah.
She looks at it and goes like, "Oh, those monkeys! Oh, delightful!"
Yeah, excellent.
Then I'm sure I'm going to pull her along on some adventure chasing monkeys.
Yeah.
But later on, I will bring back this information about these marvelous glass sewing machines. So that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, and they are in a train, right? They're still
Yeah.
in the train? Okay, not in a warehouse, just in the train.
Yeah. We might actually only need one because we have Miraz, and I'm sure he could reverse engineer them if we had one. But of course, more is
possible.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, okay, fair enough. All right. So we know what they are.
Yeah, and now we know that they are trying to sell them and they need some sort of reputable buyer. So I think Abbas's idea of setting them up with a reputable buyer could work.
Are we going to be the buyers or?
We are going to pretend to be buying these on behalf of the Udaput Development Restoration Society.
So
'Cause
basically,
they'll need it for the
we're going to
renovation.
pretend to buy them on behalf of Begum Bashundara.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, that's amazing.
Mhm.
Frame
You know-
her. That's excellent.
That could just be the score, right?
Frame her for.
Yeah, like just going up there, buying the things with the money, framing
Uh-huh.
her. And if it goes south, we can just end up stealing it. But that
Yeah.
seems to me perfectly fine for a score.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's our detail. Like trying to pretend to be Begum Bashundara's agents and buy the stuff in her name, and then get it to Munna without things going sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely the case that Haddil has told you where the glass needs to be, and he's like, so long as it gets there, details up to you.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of like a smuggling score-ish. Like get them from point A to point B.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. Does anyone else want to gather some information? I feel like we're ready to do engagement.
Yeah. It's not so much to gather information, but more like a prep thing that I
Mhm.
want to do. I think Freya's like, I've seen the commission, they have all their construction stuff and so on. They have these carriages, right? They have carriages, they have uniforms and all of that. I think to move these goods, we need a carriage anyway. And if we have an official carriage with their logo, and if we have the uniforms and so on, that just makes it even more legitimate in the eyes of that we are representing them. So let's acquire this. Let's get our hands on them.
You want to acquire a carriage?
I want to acquire one of their carriages.
Uh-huh.
And I think the most legit way of getting that is to just literally convince the carriage driver that we work for them.
Uh-huh. I feel like this could be part of the score now. I don't think this is
Yeah.
acquire the asset. I think this is
Yeah.
where we start the score by stealing one of her carriages.
Yes, excellent.
I think it makes for a much more fun opening for the score. So our plan here has some steps. Step 1, steal the carriage. Step 2, drive it over to where we need to go, having warned them ahead of time, of course, that Begum Bashundara's carriage is going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, sup, we're here to totally legitimately buy your sewing machines, and then fuck off before anyone figures out what's going on.
Correct.
Excellent. Okay.
Yep. I like this idea. And I rather than acquire an asset, I feel like stealing the carriage is a fun place to start this.
No.
We're not stealing it, you see. We're just borrowing it for our friend on the council. It's legitimate. We'll return it later.
Okay, engagement roll then is to start stealing the carriage. Tree, I'm just going to do a fortune roll concert to get a feel for know what construction projects they have and so on, and I guess depending on how bad this roll is, you can tell us how difficult stealing a carriage would be from a site, or what kind of projects they've got going on.
One.
That's the one. Excellent.
Every single project that they have currently falls into one of two categories. The first is the Ashcroft blimp. What are we calling it? We're not calling it a blimp, are we? We're calling it a airship. Yes, correct. The first is the Ashcroft airship, which is, secured up to the gills. The second is the projects that Begum Vashundhara is paying attention to personally. And as a result, every person on those sites is being very careful about everything that happens there. This is especially true because most people, as we've recently discussed, who work for Begum Vashundhara are there because of nepotism and connections. And the one thing that they do know is that if they fuck up, they will get fired by her because she is nevertheless a stickler for success. So I think you can either try and rob the big airship or that big airship compound, or you can try and get to, I think the Begum probably has, let's say, 3 other projects in the richer parts of Udwasha. So
yeah, I want to save the airship for later. Personally, I think we should just
okay. Because I think Freya would have just said, "We have an Ashcroft with us."
Indeed, yes.
Yeah, fine. Okay, but yeah, let's steal it from right under Big Old Bush Others' nose. That's much more fun.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Excellent.
Cool.
And I mean, we could still use that excuse, right? It's yes, it's for the airship project. I'm an Ashcroft. We just need to borrow this. The airship carriage broke.
Yeah.
We could make it work.
Airship machine broke.
So you start with 1 die for sheer luck. Is this plan particularly bold or daring? I think stealing the carriage seems pretty fucking bold. So I think, take a die there. Is it overly complex or contingent on many factors? I also think so. You got to steal the carriage, you got to turn up, you got to lie. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Does the plan's detail expose a vulnerability of the target or hit them where they are weakest? I don't think so.
No, it doesn't look like it.
Yes, I think we are. I think we're exposing the fact that they desperately want these things sold.
Yes.
We learned that
and
that is actually a weakness. If they think that they have found a legit client, it would be different if they're whatever, we'll sell these when we can. But if they really are man, we need to find a client. These things are just sitting here in this warehouse, a huge risk. And then someone turns up and goes hi, I am a legitimate Imperial client, willing to pay you. You would feel they would be very relieved. So I think that is a weakness.
Yeah. Is the target strongest against this approach, or do they have particular defenses or special preparations? Against someone trying to steal from them? Yes, absolutely. Against someone, against forgery? Also, yes, absolutely.
So we're back to 1 die.
And any of your friends or contacts provide aid or insight for this operation? They have, right? Are any enemies or rivals interfering in the operation? In this case, the target is the Imperial military, and you've got both the Begum and Elizabeth potentially.
Yeah.
So,
Also,
there's a ton of interference.
My rival is an Imperial inspector.
Oh yes, yes, correct. Please write that down so I remember, because she's gonna turn up.
So we're still at 1 die because we've said yes to everything.
Are there any other elements you want to consider? They are higher tier than you.
And then we lose 1 for tier, so then we're at 0 dice. We might lose more, but
yeah, I'm just whether you gain a die for anything, but I don't think you do, right? Yeah, I don't think so. Okay. So that's 0 dice. Who would like to roll your 0 dice?
Yeah, I'll do it if everyone's okay with it.
Oh, man.
6 and a 2.
If only, Well, we'll take the 3, so you're in a desperate position.
And so blows out our brief candle. I named the disciples of the ceaseless temple thus, with both their given names and taken. Soumithri, called Tree. Zoheb, called Klow. Prince, Emma, and Aadiyat, called Soap. Intro music, Jalandhar by Kevin MacLeod. Outro music in Keeravani Ragam by Srinivas. Blades in the Dark by John Harper and Evil Hat Productions. Iruvian playbooks by Johnstone Metzger. Follow us at Desperate Attune on Twitter or email us at desperateattune@gmail.com. Support us at kofi.com/desperateattune.
On the next episode of Desperate Attune. So, the first thing that happens is that this cost me 4 stress.
Oh lord. Okay.
Because not only will a little roof ball man appear, the little roof ball man is going to bounce a roof ball. He's going to say something like, "Come on and slam, welcome to the jam," or something like that.
Oh my god. How long have you been sitting
And then
on
he's
that?
going to 3 minutes. And then he'll have to move, and he'll have to keep moving after I break my concentration.
Yes.
So unfortunately, it activates all of the conditions of Ghost Image.
Ah,
But
yes.
that's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be worth it. I'm sure this will succeed.
Hey, yeah.
There will be no problems whatsoever.
A mysterious masked roof baller. You know what? I will be assisting this. And the way I'm assisting this is it's kind of a flashback assist, but the assist is obviously this whole line of like "come on and slam" and "welcome to the jam." It was obviously invented by Augustus Khan. So you're not evoking him precisely, but he has taught you a bunch of cheesy roof ball lines.
Come on and say "Ela," the slam, and au revoir to the jam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh lord. I really hope we don't have French listeners, by the way, because this is definitely a hate crime against French people at this point.